All right, so we are going to get started. Good evening and welcome. Turn this down a bit. Welcome to the Three Village Joint Council of PTA's Meet the Candidate tonight. My name is Sue Rosenzweig and I'll be acting as tonight's moderator. Everybody hearing okay?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
You're going to be hearing this evening from the 6 candidates who are running for 3 seats on the Board of Education. And if you would, perhaps each of you can give a little wave as I introduce you. Inger Germano, Irene Gish,
Hi.
Jeffrey Kerman, Shari Lee, David McKinnon, and Vincent Menton. So welcome all of you and thank you so much. Each of the candidates has been briefed in advance about the rules for this event. The candidates will have 2 minutes to make an opening presentation, 1 minute to answer each question, and 2 minutes for closing remarks. Time mark warning signs will be held up and a bell will be rung when time is up. Candidates are asked to complete their sentence at the sound of the bell. As there are no rebuttals, we would ask the candidates who are not speaking at any given time to please keep themselves on mute. We would also ask all of the spectators to keep yourselves muted throughout the evening. Neither the candidates nor the spectators may display any signs, banners, or other visual materials. I'd like to thank the members of the Three Village community for sending in so many thoughtful and wide-ranging questions. The ones that will be used tonight are culled from some of the most common themes. If time allows, we hope to get to all 5. I'd also like to say a quick thank you to my adult daughters, Emma and Clara, who will be serving as our timekeepers, and my son, Harry, who is taking care of the audio, my husband, Dean, and son, Jacob, who are running the call. With that, we're going to get started with opening remarks, which will be given in alphabetical order. We're then going to rotate who answers each question first, and closing remarks will be made in reverse alphabetical order. So our first opening remarks will be given by Inger Germano.
Hey, good evening. My name is Inger Germano. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a resident of Three Village since 2005. I currently have 2 daughters attending school in the district. Professionally, I have over 25 years in healthcare management, including 10 years at Advanced Cardiac Care. I'm a trustee on the Three Village Board of Education since 2011. Prior to that, I served 3 years on the North Shore Montessori Board when my girls attended preschool. I have continued to be a strong advocate for public education and giving back to the community through service. I believe that every child should have the opportunity to receive a quality education through public education. I have also served the community and school through several volunteer opportunities. During my time as trustee on the Three Village Central School District Board, I have always made decisions within the best interest of the students, community, and district in mind. These are unprecedented times. Now more than ever, we need strong board leadership. My reason for running is to focus on the reopening of the district with a priority on safety for the students and staff, as well as navigating through some uncertain financial times and adjusting to a new normal. The district will need to prepare for the possibility of remote instruction. We will need to ensure that the remote instruction is effective for all students. Another focus would be continue on the and expand on the wellness and mental health initiative for the children. As a mom, I see the effects that the home learning and pandemic has had on my children along with their friends. Every child learns, handles, and processes situations and information differently. We all have experienced this the last few months as parents and as a community. We need to find a way that will help every child succeed academically, mentally, and give them the support they need. Financially, we have to make some difficult decisions and cuts due to the possibility of reduced state aid. These decisions need to be made with minimal impact to the students. I've experienced making these decisions. For example, the first 2 years of the tax cap in 2012 and 2013. In regard to transparency, I created, along with another board member, the Facebook group Three Village Connection Facebook page in an effort to be more accessible to the community, along with creating transparency and to fill one of the Board of Ed goals. Am I up? I see 10 seconds. I received messages and questions down. You got it? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. We are out of time. Sorry. The bell will be a little louder next time. All right. Irene, your opening remarks, please.
Am I okay? Good. Okay. I have been a Three Village resident for 47 years. My children went through Three Village schools. I now have 5 grandchildren, 2 of whom are presently Three Village students. I have a Bachelor of Science degree from Brooklyn College, a Master of Arts degree from Stony Brook University. And I spent 25 years teaching at the University Preschool on the campus of SUNY Stony Brook. Prior to my board tenure, I was an active participant in school activities, serving on PTA boards and several board-appointed committees. I was elected to the Board of Education in 1982 and served until 1994, twice as board president, 3 times as board vice president. I was elected again in 2011 and has served as board vice president since 2014. I've also chaired the policy committee for the last 9 years. I have also been one of our costumers for the musicals at Jolinas and Wood Melville High School, where I have costumed over 30 shows, and I'm not going to name them all. As we move forward this year, I feel it is most important to keep experienced members on the board. I bring 21 years of board experience. During these years, I have proven my commitment to the needs of all of our students. We are faced with the responsibility of reopening schools in a way that keeps our students and staff safe while dealing with potentially massive state aid cuts. We are dealing with new requirements practically on a daily basis. There are always new and unexpected challenges to address, and I hope I have your support.
Thank you, Irene. Okay, and now. Jeff Kerman, your opening remarks, please.
Ready? Hi, ready? My name is Jeff Kerman, and I am running for the Board of Education. I am a practicing dentist. I've been on the Board of Education for 15 years. I've served 2 of those 15 years as president. In these very trying times, experience is definitely necessary in these difficult times in education. Being on the Board of Education involves much time and commitment to all our children so they all get an education, from special education kids, regular kids to AP kids. Education law and function is not the same as business. There are actually law firms out there that specialize only in education law because it is not the same as business law. That is why the law firm specializes in these things. You also have to realize that our budget, while it is formulated to pay for what we'd like, as Jeff said, this year may be cut by the education from the state. So we have to have people who have experience in doing all this. Both my boys went through all our schools, graduated, and they finished college ready, did very, very well. I want to keep our schools, our reputation, and success, and even make it better. One of the things that we can do is perhaps bring in foreign language to our elementary school. I've served on the facilities committee. I am the chairman of the facilities committee. And while I was there on that committee, we brought solar power to all our schools to save us lots of money. And I would appreciate your vote, and I thank you very much for the time that you've given me. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Jeff. Now we'll go to Shari Lee.
Hi everyone, my name is Shari Lee. I'm a mom of 2. I have 2 children in the district, one in the elementary school and the other in the junior high school. I have a PhD from Columbia University, and I have been an engineer for 15 years in the private sector and also in the national lab. So I have been responsible for research projects, and also interestingly, I have been in many review panels for government funded research project. I think this is very similar to what the board is supposed to be. We're supposed to review the budget, we're supposed to review the operations, and we're supposed to review what the experts have been doing. And this is what the board is supposed to do. And I have experience, volunteer experience for the PTAs. I'm very amazed by what the PTAs have been doing. They are so many energetic parents there. They can run projects so efficiently, organize many events. I really think our board can be more efficient than the PTAs. So this is what I hope to do. So I'm running because I believe children. I think kids are very capable, each of them. They have very special talent in different things, and they're very creative in different things: art, music, math, writing, science, technology, sports, you name it. So I hope each one of them in this district can be proud of what they can do, and we can provide program for them. And this also I wouldn't call the special education kids. I would call them just with special program. This is special program for everyone. So I would hope everyone enjoys this. And the last thing I would do is I hope our board can be more independent, because we are supposed to provide independent reviews for all operations. So thank you very much, and I hope you will vote for me.
Thank you so much. David McKinnon, your opening.
Hi, my name is David McKinnon. I'm a professor at Stony Brook University. I have 3 children who have attended 3 village schools. My daughter currently attends Jelena's. I would like to share 3 ideas about education in the 3 village school district. First, it would be good to dial down some of the friction that currently exists between the Board of Education and the community. One important way to do this is by learning to better share power on the school board. If the parents feel locked out of the system, as many do at the moment, because the union-backed board members dominate every important decision, obviously this creates friction. Electing truly independent, parent-backed candidates for the board is the best way to create community-based and inclusive decision-making on the board. Second, it is important to create better lines of communication between teachers, parents, and the board. During the shutdown, there were at times large mismatches between the expectations of the parents and the level of teaching support provided to their children. The parents, teachers, and administrators all felt overwhelmed. The board had the leadership responsibility to develop a set of shared expectation between these parties. An independent board would have requested that the administration send surveys to both the teachers and parents, and then look for common ground from which to build a remote learning system that worked for everyone. Third, it's important to develop strategies for education innovation. To fund new initiatives, I would work with fellow board members to write for foundation grants. In addition, I would look into the possibility of creating a university school partnership. It would be wonderful to have a local center of education innovation to make it easier to find external resources. None of these changes would produce magic. Much of the current system is pretty fixed. This doesn't mean we shouldn't make a serious effort to optimize what we have and plan for a better future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our final opening remarks from Vincent Menton.
Greetings and thank you to the 3 Village Joint Council of PTAs for hosting this event. My name is Vinnie Menton, and I am a 1975 graduate of Ward Melville High School and a 50-year resident of the community. Some things of interest about me include that I've owned my own hair shop in the community, and I was the commissioner of the 3 Village Basketball League. In addition, my wife has worked in the district for 20 years as a special education aide. My 2 daughters are Ward Melville graduates, and my dad, Wally, was the district carpenter for many years. My educational credentials include MBA in Global Leadership, MA in Adult Learning, Associate in Automotive Technology, and I currently work for Gabrielli Truck Sales as Director of Parts. The reason I decided to run for this position is because I believe that the board should be balanced with people that have diverse backgrounds and a variety of skill sets. It is from this vantage point that my experience in business development, vocational education, and my passion for the special needs community can shine through. In addition, I'm advocating for a budget management process that both increases accountability and reduces waste, and I have the fortitude and the experience to lead such an initiative. My goal is to incorporate innovative thinking and fresh new ideas. So please help me to ring out the old and ring in a renewed level of excitement and transparency. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Vinny. So that concludes our opening remarks. We'll go into our question and answer period. Again, we hope to get to 5 questions, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer those questions. There's no rebuttals in this portion of the program. Our first question, as you know, school board members do not always agree. How would you support a school board decision that you did not vote for? And we're going to start this time with Irene Gill.
I actually could not hear your question. Could you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. As you know, hold on, let's turn the audio down here a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
As you know, school board members do not always agree. How would you support a school board decision that you did not vote in favor of?
Well, I think it is vital that the board work together. Usually when we discuss an issue, we all talk about what we each feel. And by discussing it, you at least know where everyone is coming from. And you can't always impose your wishes on the group. We all work together. And one of the most important things is that a board member does not vote for something and then undermine it if they don't get their way. This is give and take, and we all support whatever the decision would be.
Thank you. Jeffrey Kerman, same question.
Can I hear the question again, please, Sue? Because it was.
Absolutely. As you know, school board members do not always agree. How would you support a school board decision that you did not vote in favor of?
Got it. School boards are designed to discuss all the issues and to also have various inputs and various outlooks onto these things. But once the issue has been decided by the school board, whether I voted for it or against it, I would support it because that is my job as a school board member to support the decisions of our school board because they are supposed to be in the interest of all our kids, for the benefit of our kids, and for the benefit of our school district. So I would support whatever goes on. In the closed meetings, if I had an objection, I would voice my objections and try to convince them. But if I can't, you have to support what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, Shari Lee, your answer to that question?
Yes. So I think the board is to represent the community to make decisions. So before anything to be voted, I would say each board member should reach as many as community members to get inputs. This includes students, teachers, parents, and residents. So based on these inputs, we provide our votes. And if we end up with a decision, and this decision are based on this voting process, after decisions made, all board members support it because this is how the democratic system works. This is how I believe, and I hope each board member are doing the same thing.
Thank you. David McKinnon, your response.
So the school boards were set up back in the 1820s in Boston and around, and they were set up as independent entities from the other political organizations in the system. They're democratically elected. Everybody can democratically or vote for school board members. They're representatives of factions within the community, but they represent the community as well. It's a political body. Obviously, people get together, they discuss, they want to know what each person's thinking. Once there's a vote, that's the vote. It's the majority rule system. I'm not sure I would support it necessarily, but I wouldn't make a fuss about it. I'd vote and move on. That's how those systems work. That's how boards work.
Okay, thank you. Vincent Menton?
Okay, sorry about that. I would absolutely, line up with whatever the decision was made, because that is the rules and that have to be followed. I mean, we live in a community where people have various viewpoints all over, but meanwhile, this community is one of the strongest and is probably one of the harmonious communities that there is. And I think we would owe it to the district and the community to follow suit and to ensure that we follow the rules of the whatever the vote came to be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Ingrid Germano.
Hi. As Board of Ed members, we all come to, the board with different expertise, experience, and, some of us are, bring information back from the stakeholders as far as the public, the teachers, and we make our decisions. It's a majority rules for the decisions. Whatever decision is made, I do support within the boardroom. However, my biggest thing is that I like to get information from all different areas, from administration, from teachers, from students, from the community before I make my decision. And once we do make a decision, I do stand behind it.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to our next question. It's a bit of a long one, so just hang in there with me. After extending a sincere thank you to our excellent teachers for doing your best this year, we must look ahead to doing better. During the COVID-19 shutdown, there was no live teaching. Recorded lessons and Google Meets were only encouraged rather than mandated. Special services like speech and OT were extremely limited. As a member of the Board of Education, how would you help Three Village improve academic delivery if we are still doing distance learning this fall? Will students with IEPs get real-time services? Can all of our students expect a uniform plan so that teachers will deliver real-time instruction? This time we're going to begin with Jeffrey Kerman, please.
Well, that's a very good point. The problem was this was shoved at us so quickly that we really had very little time to plan for this. So now we have more time. We still don't have enough time to fully plan, but we have to work to try and get all these aspects done correctly. And we have an excellent administration who will help and guide the teachers in their remote learning process so that we can get a better remote learning process done. But this is all done now, and it's all innovative because it was really never done before and it was not planned for before, because this is a new item on what's happened to school districts, and it's happened all over the country. So we have to do better, and we know we have to do better, and that's exactly what we will try to do as a school board, is directed to do a lot better for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Shari Lee.
Okay, so I'm with a lot of parents very disappointed with this distance learning. This basically put all the kids to learn on their own. And it's been very difficult for many students, especially the younger ones. They are the ones who need instruction, who need live instruction from the teachers. A lot of teachers trying their best to help. And I hope that all the teachers had gained the help they needed. They could get training. This is not rocket science. This is just online teaching, and a lot of other districts are doing this successfully. I really hope as our district, we are a great one. And I am disappointed we can only do this. So I would say if in the fall we have to do this again, I hope not. We should do it better, much better.
Okay, David McKinnon.
Hi. So I partially addressed this in my opening remarks. I mean, the thing you have to do is establish a shared set of understanding of what you're doing. In this case, we've got the teachers and the parents, the administrators. What should have happened, what should happen going forward is you send out surveys to the teachers, to the administrators, to the parents and the students, and just try to set some ground rules, some common shared idea of what we're trying to do here. My personal preference, strong preference, is the kids go back to school as soon as the governor allows this. The governor's going to make the decision, but once he allows that, they go back to as soon as possible. If that's not possible, then we have to set a much more regular rhythm to the teaching. It has to be scheduled times during the day. It has to be live teaching each time of that day. You have to train the kids into appearing, learning, because we've lost a huge amount of time and the kids are going to struggle to recover that time. Now, it's admittedly everybody's going to struggle, but our kids are going to struggle as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Vincent Menton.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. In 2008, I went back to college, State University of New York, Empire State College. And I graduated in 2019, and then I ended up with a bachelor's degree in business management and economics, master's degree in global leadership, master's degree in adult learning, and 2 advanced graduate certificates, one in human resource management and one in global brand marketing. 11 years worth of school, and I did the whole entire thing through distance learning. And I'm pretty much can consider myself an expert in distance learning at this point. And I've used it for just about every way, shape, and form it can be used. And if I'm elected, I will be able to bring a very strong knowledge of that program and be able to help quite significantly. Thank you.
Thank you. Ingrid Germano.
Hi. The optimal solution would be for the kids to go back to school, but obviously that may not be the case. And we have an obligation to make sure that all the kids' needs are met academically. We need to give support to the teachers. We need to give support to the students. We have to find a way that works for all, because not every child processes the information, the same. They don't learn the same. They don't process it the same. I see it with my own 2 daughters. They're, night and day. As far as the IEP goals and other services that are needed and not met, I feel that, we need to really take a look at where we failed in that area, or not failed, actually. We, with everything that was being thrust upon us, I feel that we didn't meet their needs. But we need to see how we can meet their needs and actually make up for what they've already lost, because that is our obligation.
Thank you. And Irene.
Hi. This was something that was thrust upon us. Nobody expected it. Nobody ever planned for it. As we move forward, now at least we have some experience of what could happen. And our teachers worked very hard right before the closing and immediately after the closing to set up the distance learning. Was it perfect? No, but it was as good as it could have been at that point in time. It's very different to do distance learning as an adult and as a 7-year-old. You can't compare the 2. So I think while we were learning as we go over the last couple of months, now we know a lot more about where the problems were and what we need to do to correct them.
Thank you very much. We will move on now to a new question. Where do you stand on the movement to consider starting our secondary schools at a later start time? And we'll begin this one with Sherry Lee.
Okay, this is a diverse issue, a lot of hot debate among it. So I will just share what I have learned from different sides. So I think the initiative was a lot of parents thinking that the secondary school students are sleep deprived. So this could be the later cycle. It's scientific. Teenagers have generally later sleeping cycle than adults. This just during the teenage time. And another way to argue is if the teenagers started late and they do everything late and they go to bed late. So this is another argument. And I would say we have the committee with teachers, administrators, and parents there to discuss this, and they should collect the inputs and evaluate, and the board is responsible to review the inputs from them. And I hope the board can represent a broad view from the district to make a wise decision. Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, David McKinnon, same question.
So full disclosure, my wife, Barbara Rosati, was one of the people who was quite interested in advancing school start times, and she's actually on the board committee that is looking at school start times. Currently, this is not actually in the hand of the board. Currently, it's in the hands of the committee. The committee is going to figure out if there's a practical way, meaning a cheap enough way, and something that doesn't disturb all the other kids to do this. The reasons to do this are twofold. First of all, there's multiple studies showing that this improves health outcomes, this improves academic outcomes, and even sport outcomes for kids. The second is a little bit more complicated, but basically we're all entrained to the rhythms of the daily rhythms, the diurnal rhythms. But some kids are shifted to the right here and they struggle to get up early. And so the very early start times that we have for the high schools puts a particular strain on those kids. We should really have a system that works for everyone, which is why I do actually favor this.
All right, thank you very much. And Vincent mentioned, same question.
Yes, thank you. I've gone to every school board meeting this year, and there were quite a bit of presentations regarding this, and I was able to listen carefully, and I learned a lot of information. And I went from 0 to 100 in knowledge, and I do actually believe that there is, scientific proof, and I've heard a lot of the documentation, and the evidence is there. And I think that we really need to strike a balance because I am open-minded to this, but I really would like to wait until the committee has all the facts in. And I do appreciate that the superintendent formed a committee to do this. And I do appreciate the fact that they are giving this plenty of time. I understand it's probably going to be the year after next before they could make a decision. And so I do feel that everything is going in a good direction, and my decision will be made once I see the results, but I do have an open mind at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Ingrid Germano.
This Late Start group brought enough information to the board for us to form a committee. During the pandemic, it's pretty much been put on hold. They brought us some preliminary reports which shows different scenarios and different changes that we can make to maybe achieve the Late Start change. However, in making a decision like this, we have to make sure that it's beneficial for all and if it's cost effective. Because right now, looking at the numbers, it's hard to determine. It looks like it's going to cost, one of our major line items is busing, and it seems that that's going to be where a lot of the funds will go to. Like I said, it's really early in the stages to make a decision, but it has to be, beneficial to all. It can't sacrifice one group of children for another, and that's how I feel about that.
Okay, thank you. Irene Gish.
Hi. I think it's interesting that it took this long for this kind of question to come up, since two of the board candidates are leaders in the movement to change the start time of the high school. And unfortunately, that group of parents wanted us to make the change, and they want the change done immediately. This is an extremely complex issue. It has the potential to impact every single family in the district. We have appointed, the board has appointed, a broad-based committee to study all the repercussions of this kind of change. This is not new. Other districts have studied it and have chosen not to do it. Again, cost is a tremendous factor. Transportation is very expensive. All of our kids are transported, and that will determine whether we're able to do it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're out of time on that one. Jeffrey Kerman, final answer for this question.
Well, I think the scientific studies are very, very interesting, but as we have already done, we have formed a committee. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Susan, can you hear me? Okay. We have formed a committee to investigate this, and we have to hear what the committee has come up with. The committee is different people. It's teachers, it's teachers, it's parents, it's administrators, and it's very, very difficult to make decisions without the correct and all the knowledge. So while I understand what the science is saying, you have to also understand the implications of what that would do to other students. And we've discussed that also with as far as sports, clubs, theater, everything else that goes after school. If that becomes later, it becomes a problem also. So we have to study this and we have to hear what the committee says before we make an intelligent and informed decision about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our next question. It seems very likely that school districts will be put in a position to make deep budget cuts for the next school year. How would you decide what to cut and what to cut first? And we'll start with David McKinnon.
Well, obviously no one wants to be cut. Basically, my fundamental view of this is the school's core function is the 3 R's plus teaching people skills that they can use once they leave the school, practical skills. And so I would see those as being protected completely. One problem in school systems is the growth of administrative bloat. I see that that's not a huge issue in our school system, but it is an issue. I feel like we should cut back, first of all, in administration. We should put off capital projects if that's at all possible, and I think in some cases that's clearly possible. Those are the 2 places I would see starting. I would protect the teachers as much as possible. They're the core function of the system, and they should be protected up to the very last.
Thank you. Vincent Menton.
Yes, I think that they would basically want to start with any capital improvements, extensions and new construction. The maintenance would have to be carefully reviewed to make sure that the buildings and the equipment don't deteriorate too much. And once you've been able to successfully get as much out of that part of it, then I would go for some of the extra things. I noticed that, you know, there's some conferences that we might be able to be turned around to be video conference instead. I noticed some salary increases or a little more than I would be happy with, and I would look to see if we could maybe revisit those if that would be possible, and maybe reduce some of these increases. And I would stay away from, you know, the educational area as much as possible, and try to keep the value of education and the integrity intact. Thank you.
Thank you. Ingrid Germano.
Okay, I know this year we've already started a few phases. We did 4 phases, and some of them included administrative positions, and combining them. Our large item on our budget is teachers. We've cut teachers in the past with the tax cap, and we see how that affected the students, and that's an item that I would like to stay away from. Capital projects, as always, and supplies were take away from areas that would really not affect the children. Like I said, there's positions, and unfortunately, maybe the preschool program, which I would never really want to cut, that would be the last item on the list. But I would really start with administrative positions, try to combine positions and capital projects.
Thank you. Irene Gish.
Okay. Well, of course, the first thing that goes is capital projects. Maintenance gets a little tricky because if we still have coronavirus and we're still doing cleaning and deep cleaning, that's the people who are doing it, the custodial staff, etc. But sometimes you can combine positions and still get the job done. We've already earmarked some administrative reductions. Clerical, we may have to reduce some clerical. And we've just put in a retirement incentive. So hopefully, if people who are highly paid retire, that would enable us to save some money by hiring younger, newer, and less expensive staff. I would never want to increase class sizes, but that's always a possibility as well.
That's all we have time for on that response. I apologize. Jeffrey Kerman, your response to that question.
Well, my response to the question is that we can probably cut capital projects. But as Irene was saying, you can't cut as much as you of maintenance as you want to, because the buildings have to function. Our place that we want to cut least is anything that will affect the children's learning, and that is mostly teachers. So that's why we initiated the new retirement incentive to try and not force but convince our older teachers to leave the district, because they are the most highly paid, and that way we can keep our younger teachers who will continue to help and teach the kids like they're supposed to. But it is a very difficult time because of the budget cuts to do all this and do it intelligently, because we don't really know what the governor is going to tell us to cut. They passed the budget, but that's not written in stone. And because the budget is not written in stone, it can be changed. And that's what we have to do.
Thank you. Sherry Lee.
Yes. So first of all, I agree with many no cuts on students program. Second of all, I give you an example of how, so if we don't have enough budget, what do we do? There are some financial practice we can resort to. I give you an example. I checked the budget this year, and there was a big increase on maintenance and operation. So I called Mr. Carson asking him what's this coming from. He said he actually used a local service, and instead of outside service, this actually save us money. I think this is a good example. We can use more local services, which can be cheaper than outsourcing. So I would say there are more ways to do this, and there are some cheaper resources we can use. There are local resources, there are professional networks who can help. I would say if we keep some old way, we probably would have to spend as much as we used to, and that cannot sustain. But let's try to find out new ways to do things, and I hope that will help relieve the issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to our next question now. As you know, Nassaquag was the only school impacted the last time Three Village was redistricted, splitting rising 7th graders between Murphy and Jolinas. Is that fair, in your opinion, that we continue to do this? If not, how would you fix the problem? We'll begin with Vincent Menton.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, although I could. Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Absolutely. Nassaquag was the only school impacted the last time Three Village was redistricted, splitting rising 7th graders between Murphy and Jolinas. Do you feel that it is fair that we continue to do this? If not, how would you fix the problem?
Okay, I'm glad I got the first one to answer this one, because that's a tough one. Well, actually, I was there during the redistricting, and I remember I went to all the board meetings, and I remember exactly what happened, and there was all different scenarios, 6 different ways you had to choose which way, north, south, east, west, and Arrowhead, I think, was the split school before Nassaquag was. I don't like the fact that that split. I think that there's something wrong with that. With the declining, I mean, there's been a severe declining enrollment, close to about 1,700 students in the last 9 years, I'm going to say. And I'd have to think that maybe some way we could possibly reduce one of the schools and even it up. I'm not sure if that's a possibility. So it's hard to say that that could be feasible. But, you know, for a question like that, that's a tough one. And that's what I would say. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Ingrid Germano, same question.
Having 2 children that went to the split school, and we did end up changing schools and driving them with permission. I understand the impact it makes on a child. It's very difficult right now to be able to change the split school like that with declining enrollment in the future, and maybe 4 or 5 years down the road is something that maybe we can, if the declining enrollment is to a point that we can close the school, then we won't have to worry about the redistrict, the split school at all. But right now, with the amount of students that we have, I'm not really sure how we would be able to do that, to be honest with you.
Okay, Irene Gish.
Well, I think back to 40 years ago when I first moved here, and Nassaquag was the split school then. A split school is difficult on the students, where some of their friends are going to Murphy and some of maybe they're going to Jolinas or vice versa. But at this point, if you don't have the room in either building for the whole bulk of students, you're really left without an alternative. So I would consider watching, and as the years go by, look at each year and see at some point, there's the possibility that we'll be able to put all of those kids either into Jelena's or Murphy. But I wouldn't want to do it and overcrowd that building, whichever building we do it with. So it's something that has to be monitored and constantly reevaluated.
All right, thank you. Jeffrey Kerman.
That I agree with Irene again. That has to be constantly reevaluated every year, because right now it is working. It's unfortunate for the kids that have to split between Murphy and Jelenas, but it is working. It is keeping the junior high schools at an even keel as far as the students go, and we'll have to continue studying it. And that's one of the things that you have to do and realize when you're on the school board, is that nothing is written in stone. There's always things that change. There's always things that you can change. You just have to study them and make sure you make the correct decisions that will benefit the kids the most and be the least effect on the school district and on the taxes and everything else. So right now we have to study it, but as far as I know, as far as the populations goes, unfortunately that has to stay in effect as it is right now.
Okay, thank you. Sherry Lee?
Yes. So I'll share some point of view from my kids. My daughter was in Nassaquet, and now she's in Jelenas, and my son is in Nassaquet. At the beginning, they were sad that they will not be some of their friends in junior high school. But later on, my daughter actually find out because her friends spread into two junior high school. They discuss about things of two schools. They kind of learning what's best in one school and what's the other. I would say this actually helps her to open up her eyes and seeing different things. And they have this games between two schools, and they went to science test together. They just like each other. I would say this, it's unfortunate we have to split them, but they can learn something different from this life experience. So I think this is just expressing my kids' view.
Okay, thank you. And last to answer this question will be David McKinnon.
Okay, so I understand the problem. It's quite a difficult transition to junior high. Some kids make it easily. Some kids really find it a struggle. It's a real change of the environment, also just the way of learning and the way of interacting with their peers. It's really probably one of the biggest changes you go in through life. So I understand what people are talking about. I understand that splitting up from their friends is really a problem here. As Shara just said, it's not a problem for everybody. Some people find it quite straightforward. I don't really see any obvious solution. I'm not going to pretend there's an obvious solution. If there's declining enrollments and they decline to the point where it's no longer possible, then obviously the board should immediately move to make them all attend one or the other schools. That is obviously the best solution. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to move on to our last question for the evening. What are your thoughts on more vocational training to be brought into the district so that students would have more opportunities to participate within the normal parameters of the school day? And we'll start with Ingrid Germano.
I'm all for bringing more opportunities into the district for the children. I think that even with we brought the academy into the district, and there's different, we have the outside BOCES. I know that was a goal of ours to bring some of that into the school district, and then also give us more freedom as far as what we can do with our schedules and the children, and our yearly calendar and everything like that. I think it's a great opportunity. Not every child is, geared to go to college. Not every child wants to go to college. And I just think that it's something that we should be able to offer our kids, to give them the opportunity and give them, the chance to succeed in another way.
Okay, thank you. Irene Gish?
Well, I would like to see more vocational opportunities within the district, because when kids go on BOCES, their day becomes split. They maybe have their classes in the morning at Melville, then they have to go to BOCES in the afternoon. It's really disjointed for them, and it's unfair. I would really like to see us be able to offer some of the more popular vocational courses, things like beauty culture, things like culinary, I think are the two areas that most of our vocational students wind up going to. So I think I would like to look for ways to do that. And I think we could probably do it cheaper than what it costs us to send the kids to BOCES, and perhaps even take some tuition students from Fort Jeff or Smithtown. So it's something to look into.
Okay, thank you. Jeffrey Kerman?
I'm definitely in favor of looking into doing that. I can remember when we first moved here, they had an auto mechanic place right in back of the high school, and they taught the kids a lot of practical things. It is a good thing to do, and it has to be looked into to make sure that it is fiscally responsible. But as long as it's fiscally responsible, it should be done, because to keep the kids locally is better for the kids and also gives them much more opportunities and much more choices. So I am in favor of bringing a lot of the non-academic, but the practical things back into the district. So I am in favor of that.
Thank you. Shari Lee?
Yes. So can you tell me what do you include in vocational training? I would like to know what's included. Is it a broad range, or it's just specific career opportunities?
I can't speak as an expert, but I will tell you that BOCES offers everything from culinary to, as you heard, beauty. There is, I believe, aviation training, auto mechanics,
Yep.
A lot of different programs, and I'm sure we can get more information on that. But it's vocational training. It's for non-college tracked, not necessarily non-college tracked students.
Okay, then I would say we don't limit our choice to this because the new careers, I think there are a lot more new careers emerging now. Kids can do their own studio at home, and they can develop their own photography business. I would say we should focus on some new career opportunities. And of course, this old one, as long as some kids like them, we can provide them, but I'm just advocating for some new choices. That's all my point.
Thank you. David McKinnon.
Okay, so as we saw during the COVID crisis and the early response to that, there is a real problem with manufacturing. The movement of manufacturing out of the country has just created a huge problem with supply chains, which got broken, and we couldn't supply simple stuff like masks and so forth. I'm basically running in large part on trying to expand tech training, try to provide people with skills that they can use in manufacturing industry. Not necessarily that they have to go into manufacturing, I'm certainly not suggesting that, but just trying to broaden the interest of the kids in the kind of technical skills, particularly high-tech manufacturing skills that are what the country needs, not just the local district, though it also needs it, but the country needs to be a more competitive, more functional country. So I define tech skills pretty much as anything that gets you a job, but I'm particularly interested in those that contribute to high-tech manufacturing and just manufacturing in general.
Thank you. And our final answer for this question will be Vincent Menton.
Okay, thank you. Well, this is my question because I graduated from Ward Melville High School in 1975, and I lived in the auto shop that Jeff was speaking about. That was my world. And I'll even admit to the fact that I cut a couple of classes to stay in there and work on my car in extra time. And that gave me the foundation that provided me a career and where I am today. And I give that auto shop all the credit in the world. And I actually won the honor to be the top auto mechanic of that year. And that gave me the springboard. The problem is that the guidance counselors in the schools do not understand what the career opportunities are in the vocational world. And therefore, when a student wants to be a vocational learner, they do not have any kind of advice or direction. The answer is we need to train our guidance counselors so they can understand the full gamut of what the careers are, because they are many. And right now there's a shortage of especially auto technicians. And so, yes, I totally believe in it. And if you elect me, I can take the lead on that. Trust me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, just by coincidence with the way the questions played out, Vincent, you are also going to begin our closing remarks this evening. Each of the candidates will have 2 minutes.
Okay, great. Well, my closing remarks actually run right into the last question. So here we go. Sometimes actions speak louder than words. That being said, I'd like to share a heartwarming story with you. Back in the late 1990s, while I was running my auto shop, I signed up for the district's community-based vocational training program as one of the training places. During that time, there was one particular boy, and his name was Frank, and he was extremely interested in working on cars. I wanted to do as much as I could to help Frank maximize his experience. So I decided that together we would rebuild the engine in my old shop pickup truck. After the program ended, Frank graduated and went on to get a job at a local tire shop. I got to meet his dad and we developed a relationship, and I would see Frank around town, and it was gratifying to know how I helped him in some way. Frank's family moved and I lost touch with him. Well, the other day, I got the idea to go on Facebook and see if I could find out how Frank was doing. I messaged Frank's father, and much to my surprise, he messaged me back. Here's his message. Hi, Vinny. Oh, man, it's so great to hear from you. I'm fine. I'm living upstate in Middleburg. Yes, Frank is in the building, respected technician and welding fabricator. Your name is still a household name, and Frank always tells everyone that he got his start from Vinny Menton. Here's Frank's phone number. I'm sure he'd like to talk to you. Let's stay in touch. Thanks for thinking of Frank and me. You know, it's life-changing moments like these that make being an educator all worth it. My passion is to help students, parents, teachers, and the community, and it's already been established in my everyday life. I'm here asking for your vote so I can continue to add as much value as possible to our district and to our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next closing remark will be from David McKinnon.
I would like to talk briefly about how I decided to run for the board. About 9 months ago, I had a conversation with a friend of my wife's. She is a mother who had 4 children in the district schools. She knows the history of the district unusually well. She had been advocating for small changes in policy within the district for more than a decade without any success. What struck me in this conversation was how she shifted repeatedly between hope for her children and then pessimism about the district's ability to effect meaningful changes. I ran for the board to give a voice to those parents who have come to feel voiceless in the current system. In the process of running, I've become aware of basic problems of fairness in the electoral process. In particular, the teachers' union candidates dominate the election, and independent parent-backed candidates such as myself has not won an election against the teachers' union candidate for 15 years. Teachers' union candidates on the board at the moment have tenure stretching back to the 1980s and 1990s. This lack of sharing of decision-making creates a static system that has made innovation and change almost impossible. In regular times, this was obvious only to those who took the time to attempt some change. The pandemic created a situation where the inflexibility of the school system has become apparent to most parents. Voting for an independent parent-backed candidate is not a vote against teachers. I am a teacher. It is a vote for fairness, a vote for an equal representation of parent interests. This year, vote for change, vote for an independent voice on the board, vote for your child's education, vote for budget oversight. Whatever reason you might have, please vote, and most importantly, tell your friends to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Shari Lee.
Okay. So my point, I want to do this because I believe in kids. I think they are magnificent. They know a lot of things out of the box. They're not like us. We are limited to certain views we have experienced. They are not, and they accept new things so fast. I want to encourage them to develop this, to love what they're doing, have passion, no matter what it is. Can be sports, can be art, can be math, can be whatever they can think of in your mind, in their mind. So I hope to promote this. I hope to find out resource for them. This is the main reason I want to run. And another thing, I do think the board should be a little independent, so the board can actually make decisions based on the interest of students, not influenced by any group. So that's what I want to say. Oh, by the way, I should clarify, I'm not founder of the State Star School Age, just to say that.
Thank you. All right, Jeffrey Kerman.
Well, in these difficult times, you need people on the school board who have experience in education and the way that the educational system works. Besides that, I am running because I really appreciate what the school district has done for my children, and I love to give back to them. And it is very, very important for me to continue to have our school district well known and be very, very successful. I would urge everybody to make sure that you think about stuff like that, because if you get newbies in here now, there is a very, very big learning curve. And this is not the time for a big learning curve because of what's going on. We don't even know if the school is going to open in September. And that's one of our problems. We have to know what's going on before you can make intelligent decisions. You can't just say, well, we should do this or do that. You have to get all the information, think about it, discuss it with the school board, discuss it amongst themselves, get all the information from the outside people also, teachers, parents, administrators, and make decisions that are intelligent. So I urge everybody to please think about that. And I would thank you very much for your support and your vote. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Irene Gish.
I would just like to say that I think it's interesting to me that two of the people who are running are leaders in the movement for the change the school time. They are both in favor of that change, and that is what they want. And they know that this board is studying the situation and will not make the change if it isn't right for our district. They're not happy with that. So their goal is to replace us so that they can then change the start time. That is the motivation here. Make no mistake about it. Dr. Kerman, Mrs. Germano, and I are the incumbents. Yes, we've been on the board a long time. We have all been running on our record, a strong record of pro-education standings. We do not have hidden agendas. We are not part of a self-interest group. We are simply pro-education. And I hope that we still have the support of the community in our pro-education stand. We need to work together to make the challenges of the next year not be the downfall of our district.
Thank you. And finally, Ingrid Germano.
We are in unprecedented times. We need to establish a new normal for the students, staff, and community, and to plan for the reopening of our schools with a priority placed on the safety of our students and staff. Prepare for the possibility of continued distance learning that will be successful for all, with support for both students and teachers. Navigate the district through upcoming reductions in aid and fiscally challenging times. We were successful before, we could do it again. Continue to ensure that our children are successful and hold our students and staff to higher standards. I will continue to advocate for all students. Throughout my years of service on the board, I have made decisions during difficult financial times while sustaining the integrity of the district and programs. My experience in healthcare management, along with my Board of Ed experience, will be valuable during these times. If elected to serve on the Board of Education, I will continue to make sound and fiscally responsible decisions that would benefit and maintain the quality of education that we expect and are accustomed to in Three Village. I will take into account all needs of the stakeholders, students, teachers, and community, and will be accessible and responsive to all. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Thank all of you for joining us. As a reminder, voting this year will be done by completing that ballot that you received in the mail and either mailing it back or dropping it off so that it is received by 5 p.m. on June 9th. We hope to put a recorded version of tonight's program on each of the 8 school PTA websites and on the SEPTA site sometime within the next couple of days. Thank you for joining us. Best of luck to all of our candidates. Everybody stay well and have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Everybody stay healthy.
Yes, you too.